All right, thank you, everybody. This is the meeting for the Board of Health. I am Chris Thornley, the chair. Today is November the 10th, approximately 6:15. And introductions for everybody, please. Nancy Baralt, our director. Michael Hurley, one of the members. Mary Porter, one of the members. Enid, our town council liaison, are all currently present.
Nancy, do you want me to read the whole thing about the hybrid meeting? I just did it last night for council.
Well, that's up to Chris, but I don't
mind.
It has it fine. It's a page and a half. Doesn't take very long.
Oh, is this the next couple? All right, I see it.
This public meeting is being
yeah, I got it. All right, this public meeting is being conducted remotely in compliance with Section 1 of Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B, dated March 14th, 2020, using GoToMeeting electronic conferencing technology. Using this technology, the public shall participate in real time in this meeting via computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone using the access information set forth on the meeting agenda. Please be advised that each meeting has unique participation information, so be sure that you have access to correct meeting. Notice is hereby given that only 250 participants may access this remote electronic public meeting at any one time. Access to this meeting using this technology is granted solely by the technology provider on a first access basis and is not controlled by the town of Monroe. While it is anticipated we will not exceed this participation limit for this meeting, should it appear that we are approaching this said limit, that any member of the public is denied access to this meeting, I, as chair, reserve the right to adjourn and continue this meeting at a later date using technology appropriate to ensure all members of the public may participate. Please take notice the following regarding this remote electronic public meeting. This meeting is being conducted in real time. This meeting is open to the public, that any member of the public may listen or view to this meeting anonymously. This meeting is being recorded, and while we ask that you mute your microphone unless recognized to speak, that anything you say, do, or is displayed on your screen may become part of the meeting recording. That recording shall be posted to town's website within 7 days. That recording shall be made available to the public within a reasonable amount of time in the town hall or upon request. This meeting shall follow standard parliamentary procedure. However, I ask all participants to follow these special rules in addition. Please mute your microphone as to reduce background noise at any time you are not speaking. Prior to speaking on each occasion, speakers shall clearly state their name and title for the record. The use of the chat feature is prohibited and will not be considered during the meeting if used. As set forth on the agenda, this meeting will feature public participation as needed. Okay. We now turn to the first item on the agenda. Before doing so, allow me to cover some ground rules of this meeting. To ensure effective and clear conduct of our business and ensure accurate recording, I, Chris, as the chair, will introduce each matter on the agenda. If a vote is anticipated, I will ask for a motion and a second. After introduction of the matter or upon motion, I will invite each member by name for discussion. After all members have had the opportunity to speak for the first time, I will repeat the invite to each member in the same order, which there is no further comment. Please hold your comments until all are recognized. Everyone shall have an equal opportunity to speak. Upon conclusion of the discussion, I will call for a vote on the motion, if applicable, or other action to conclude each matter on the agenda. All votes taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Please remember to mute your microphone or computer when you're not speaking. Please also remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate an accurate recording in the minutes. And I think that should be it, because I'm tired of reading. Okay, so we are going to go right down the list here. So seeing as though we do not have any further people here, we will pass right on by the public participation. And I will go to the next order of business, which is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, which hopefully everybody has read. And I will go ahead and motion to, is there anybody that has any issues with the minutes as stated? Forever hold your peace. Okay, so I will motion to approve said minutes.
This is Mary, I'll second.
Thank you. And at this point, Nancy, vote.
Okay.
Michael, vote.
Yes,
Yeah.
aye.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and Mary.
Yes.
Okay, all right, motion has carried unanimously to approve the said minutes from the previous meeting. Next meeting, next on the agenda is discussion items from Nancy, so I will turn the meeting over to her. Go ahead, Nancy, thank you.
All right. One thing that I wanted to point out to everyone, if you didn't notice on the last meeting, is I didn't give you a written report of all our activities. The reason for that is we just have so much going. It's hard to take time out to create the report, to be honest. So that will be starting up again. Barb and I chatted a little bit about it. But all the important things that would normally be written in that report, I will be telling you on this call. So let me start with the Environmental Health Services report. You can take a look at it here. As you can see down our septic, new residential, our variance to projection is 100%, 50% above that. We've got commercial repair, 100% for new commercial. So there's a significant amount of inspections that are out there being done for subsurface sewage disposal. We're getting back conducting food service inspections again. And part of them are COVID-19 inspections, where we have a checklist and we go over social distancing, wearing masks, hand sanitizer, and washing hand use for those that work in restaurants, as well as what your expectations should be for customers. So that is in process now. So when you look at the report, the variance to projection is 14%, and the reason why it's so low is we're just really getting back out there in the field to address our food service inspections.
This is Mary. I have two questions about that. First of all, I don't know if it would just be worth noting that multiple food establishments were closed for some of those periods of time, just because that reflects part of why the numbers are down for inspections. But my other question is about if the number of inspections should actually be up because of the guidelines for during this COVID time and the newer restrictions and guidelines, and checking in to see if they're being followed.
Well, believe it or not, there haven't been many restaurants that have closed. Some have closed for short periods, but if you were to look at it for the 4-month period that we've passed through so far this year, it's still a little bit, we should be doing, let's see, about 25 inspections a month, and we're not near there. So
so why aren't they being done, I guess, is my question. I realize there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think that there's been such an emphasis on what needs to be done to make food service safe during the COVID pandemic that it seems like it should be something that is focused on.
Right. Well, part of it, it's well, there's multiple parts there, I would say. The first is that you need staff to do it. And I used to do at least 10, 12 of those inspections a month. And there just isn't the bandwidth to do that in contact tracing and the other things that are needed for the department. The other thing is that I don't think that you would need to, well, we do have someone that's helping in another department. So when he has gone out and done some inspections for us, COVID inspections or response to complaints, but those are not food service inspections. So we do have some help, but to actually get out there and do full inspections, it's very difficult. And the state health department doesn't recommend that we spend as much time in restaurants as you normally would, because as you know, social distancing and requirements and mask use, they're not always adhered to. And certainly when you're doing an inspection, you're closer than 5 feet in a kitchen. So, or closer than 6 feet. So that's.
But you would be masked, so you would have that covered.
No, you won't. If you're within 6 feet and you're exposed to that person for 15 minutes, and that person has to be positive, now my sanitarian's a contact of that person.
Right, but they would be masked, which is the barrier to less than 6 feet.
No, a mask, yeah, a mask, it doesn't matter if you're masked or not. If you're within that 6 feet for 15 minutes within a 24-hour period, you're considered a contact. Yep. So, so some of this is safety for the staff. And some of it's is staffing. Anybody else have any questions or?
Nope.
No, so none of the like the COVID in essence inspections and stuff are not considered part of the routine inspections,
Right.
which is kind of where we're putting more of our focus and effort. Is that the way I'm interpreting what you're saying, Nancy?
Yeah, that is it. We're not doing COVID inspections on everybody, obviously. There's
Right.
no way to do that. But they're not the routine food service inspections that you see on this report.
Oh, yeah, so they're not going to be counted here, but
That's
obviously
right.
you guys are still doing all this other stuff.
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
So how many of those COVID food service inspections have been done?
That I don't know. I don't have those numbers and for two reasons. Well, certainly for one, because we have another department that's helping us out. William Holsworth, he helps us, and we've had the fire marshal go out and do inspections, not necessarily in food service, but I wouldn't doubt if probably, but not that much food service. It's kind of a it's a hodgepodge collection of people based on the amount of complaints that come in, the amount of inspections that are needed. But these COVID inspections they're not on a revolving list or anything like that. We don't have the staff to do it, and that's the bottom line.
Okay.
We have been out and we correspond with our food service operators through emails and other means so that they know what the rules were. And when they were opening up after our close down, they had to provide plans for us for free opening plans. They have to have someone someone that is at the restaurant that's in charge to make certain that that the regulations under the Reopen Connecticut are being followed. So those types of things are all in place. So they're just not being let go to do it on their own. You know what I mean? These are things that are in place. It's just that the traditional inspection that we know of going out and doing a thorough inspection right down to, a cracked floor tile, that kind of inspection we're not doing now.
Okay. All right, well, I mean, it sounds like a fairly valid reason why we're at where we're at.
So this is Mike. I imagine, I mean, I'm on Facebook from time to time, and I mean, the Facebook police are rampant about that stuff. So I feel like that you would be getting phone calls for people that are really kind of breaking the rules with the COVID.
Absolutely. And if we get a call right off the bat, we forward it to Bill Holsworth. He's the guy who goes out, calls, and does an inspection, really talks to the operator about why you should wear a mask, what's some, the things that are important about social distancing. And we follow up on every one of those. We, not necessarily the health department, but others. And we collect that information as to how many people that we referred to other departments. We have that. I can get that to you, Mary, but I don't have specifically like an inspection report that I can give to you, because it's a different type of an inspection. It's less of inspection and more about education. And but many times we get complaints with people not wearing masks, but by the time you get out there, that person's either gone if it's a store. It's not too often the operator of a restaurant or the food service operators, though it does happen, but not as frequently as you would think.
So do I understand correctly that the COVID inspections are only being carried out when there's a complaint, but not routinely?
They're routine in that every time that we go out to do a food service inspection, we're doing a COVID inspection at the same time, just to save time. But we don't have a schedule of just COVID inspections where you would go down the list and make certain you went to every restaurant to do a COVID inspection. We do not have that. It's not required per the State Department of Public Health in any case. So does anybody have any other questions?
I do not know.
Okay, let's move on then.
Does anybody have any suggestions? This is it's tricky. I admit it. I wish we could do a lot more. I suppose the other piece too is when you're increasing your inspections on something, it's like, why are we increasing inspections? COVID inspections, because people might be getting exposed. So then you have to trace it back. Okay, you go out to the restaurant. Is the seating and this social distancing appropriately where people are sitting? Yep. Okay, so we've already reviewed those plans for all the food service establishments in the town. So the next step is for those that have been exposed or that are positive for COVID-19. The question is, where have you eaten within the past 5 or 6 days? Where have, we try to tease that out as part of the contact tracing. And we have not been able to connect the dots for any restaurant in the town of Monroe. So I'm just putting that out there. So we try to focus on what we're looking at based on risk. Like I get calls from daycare centers, parent of a child in a daycare center, positive COVID. What do I do? We try to really focus on that. We work closely with the Board of Education. You might have someone that works at the school that's positive, and we have to do the contact tracing. Where was that person working? Who spoke to them? Was it for that 15 minutes within 24-hour period? Where was the child that was positive? Where were they sitting in the class as compared to other children? Were these like third or fourth graders, or were they seventh or eighth graders or high school? And their behaviors are entirely different, and mask wearing is entirely different. So those are the types of risks we are currently focusing on and addressing. All right, so I just wanted to just talk about that a little bit. All right, move on to the revenue report.
Okie dokie. The only question that I had on the revenue report was, hold on, let me get it brought up here. Was something to do with the salon. Yeah, salon plan reviews. Looks like you guys had 2 of those, one back in July and one in October.
Oh, yes.
The dollars didn't look right to me because I thought it was the same as a licensing fee, which is the $255. So I didn't know why there was a 300 number there.
Let me ask Barb, do you know why that is? All right, we'll check into that.
I mean, if it's right, it's right. Obviously, I don't have a problem with it. It was just, I thought it just seemed a little bit off to me. Like it could have been just punched in wrong, or, maybe I'm just thinking
Yep.
about something wrong.
No, you're right. We're gonna check it.
Okay. And it obviously stood out because it's at 108% of,
Oh, yeah.
2.
Yeah. All right. 0.8.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
So that's it for that? Anybody have any other questions? So let's see. So the next, did you want to go on to grant status or?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
let's just quickly run down the grants.
Okay, good enough. The Preventive Health and Health Services Block Grant, everything is still on hold because we can't really go out there and do one-on-one blood pressure screenings and such. So the state health department, they're trying to come up with a plan on how we can move forward on that grant for this fiscal year. So that's kind of in a holding pattern. Emergency Preparedness Grant, the 2021. I haven't gotten the contract yet, but all the paperwork has been submitted. Waiting and seeing on that. The Health Enhancement Community Initiative Grant. Let me think now. Oh, yes. So we've received $5,000 of that grant. That's where we're working with Stratford and, the whole breastfeeding cubicle over at the library. So that's kind of moving forward slowly. But Lorna is trying to get the materials at the library to have a little cubicle set up with a chair and a table, a little privacy area for breastfeeding. There's also other initiatives connected to that grant, like outreach for educating the public on nutrition and such. But all of that, again, would certainly be put off to later next year. Moving down to the ELC funding. We're still in the process of reviewing applications to hire a temporary nurse, and that person will assist our public health nurse in doing contact tracing. But primarily, that person's responsibility will be interfacing with the Board of Education and the nursing staff over there, so that we won't have cases falling through the cracks at the Board of Ed. Every weekend, it seems, I'm getting a call about a parent that's positive and a child that has to be kept home, and how many days was the child in class, and there's a lot of follow-up and follow through with that. And then let's see, there's a COVID-19 crisis grant currently. That's on page 2 here.
Mm-hmm.
That grant pays for some of Heather's hours to do contact tracing. Other funding from that grant paid for equipment, a laptop computer, and cell phones for both Heather and when the new public health nurse comes on board. One other grant I'll talk about, it's down in item G.
So have we actually received the COVID-19 grant?
Immunization Program COVID-19 reimbursement grant, which will fund some of the monies, fund some of what's needed for our point of dispensing for COVID-19 vaccine when it does show up. So it'll probably buy things like, could be signage, could be money to hire nursing staff to help us, provide the vaccine to our community. Could be heaters in the vaccine tent, so there's a lot of that we're just in the process of planning now. So that takes care of the grants. Does anybody have any questions?
We already have the money for the COVID-19 crisis grant. Nancy, can you hear me, Nancy? Hello?
Hey, Chris? Was that Chris?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris, so it's not you.
This
Anybody
is
there?
Mary, and I can hear you also.
Nancy, can you hear me now?
Oh, now I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Do we actually have the money for the COVID-19 crisis grant?
Okay, that crisis, the COVID-19, it's a reimbursement grant.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah,
the question I would have is, you said between that one and the other one, we're trying to get an additional public health nurse, and we were going to buy a computer. Have we bought this computer yet? So that way, once we have somebody, and or to allow Heather to use it to do contact tracing and such, do we already have this machine yet?
Yeah, Heather already has a computer and has a hotspot and a phone. We're all set with her.
Okay.
And the new computer, IT has it. They're installing software on it this week. So
Okay.
it's all good news there.
Okay, so we'll be able to hit the ground running when somebody comes on board.
Yep. That's
Nancy, I have to leave
sorry
now.
about the static. I've got technical difficulties here. Can
So
you hear
I'm
me?
leaving now. I'll join you for the next meeting next month.
Enid's
All right,
leaving.
Enid, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in for a little bit.
Very interesting, and I pass this information along. I mean, I don't pass along number of inspections, but I do tell people that you guys are doing things. Of course, Nancy. All righty, thank you. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
So what was that, Chris? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure that we had the computer, so we would be able to hit the ground running when we were able to find somebody to come on board.
Yep. Basically, where we are in the process is we've received all the applications, we've reviewed them, and now we forwarded them on to personnel, human resources. Theirs is the next step to review the list. There might be some questions, there might be some documentation that's missing for licensure for the people that have applied, that type of thing.
Understood.
And we got a list of questions going as part of the interview. And so hopefully in the next week or so that, interviews will start, it's a long process.
It's a process, I understand.
Yep. So that is it for the grants. On unfinished business, the coronavirus response and emergency planning. What I thought that I would also do is hand this out to everyone. Our first selectman, he posts this information on the town website, certainly every Thursday, because that's when the state health department gives us the charts and everything that we need for us to determine that we're in the red. But anyway, that's what this is all about. And I just wanted to know that information is out there, and that if you want the best information on COVID, not just in Monroe, but in Connecticut, hook onto his site, and there's a lot of links on here, which actually can take you to the State Health Department report, Thursday's report, and there's a lot of good information there. Any other questions?
Not for Mike, no.
For the emergency
Thank you, all
planning,
set.
I'm sorry?
I said all set.
Okay, okay. All right. So I'm thinking that we could move on to the budget discussion.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
All right, so basically, we just plugged in what was discussed on our last meeting, proposed 2021, 22. We have it listed in there. You'll see that the total at the bottom is a little bit lower than the actuals for the previous years,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to expect that in the situation that we're in. Is there anything on this list that needs to be tweaked in any way as part of the proposed budget for 21, 22?
No, we had kind of started talking just for a few minutes before off the record, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm not sure if Mike and or Mary did or did not hear the small discussion that we had had. I had contacted Ken about how he wanted to proceed with the budget talks and the potential for obvious business closures and thus losing licensure income. With that being said, he thought that using the number of facilities that we have, which is kind of what we had thought originally, was probably the best idea to use at this point. And if uh, before he is ready to present the budget to town council in January, if things start happening, he can obviously always just tweak everything at that point in time. He had told me to just tend to concentrate a little bit more on looking at some of the expenditure items to see if there was anything, obviously, that we could trim away if at all possible, and just look at those kinds of things to see what we can do in that area of the budget. But he didn't feel that at this point he wanted to change any like number of licensed facilities, whether it's the salons or restaurants.
Mhm.
Just using the numbers that we have right on here that you have provided us, Nancy. I think using the numbers that you have for the in the column that's proposed 21/22 and the reasonings behind doing that, they all seem to make some sense to me. The
Okay.
only question that I had for you was, and unfortunately my page is partially cut off. So I'm looking at the one that says it might be something with daycares that says based on number of
On the
project.
number of projected inspections.
Yeah. How is that like the same for every year? And then did we budget for 7 of those for this year?
See, what happens is that these are inspected every 2 years in general. Their
Okay.
frequency is different. That's why we just look in the file to see when their next inspection is due, what year it falls in.
Uh-huh.
That's what happens there.
Okay, so that $700 is based upon how many inspections you believe you will be doing based upon that that
Right.
number of
That,
how many are going to be necessary for next year type thing.
yep, that's what that
Okay.
is.
All right. To me, I didn't see anything else that kind of stood out. Mary, Mike, do you guys have any comment or input on any of the items that are on here?
No, but do we know of any businesses that have closed down?
Um,
Or do you not get that information? Which you may not.
I
yeah,
think the tattoo parlors closed.
what was that, Mary?
I'm pretty sure the tattoo parlor closed.
Well, that I can guarantee you, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's rude, Mike. Sorry, I was so late, guys.
Are they closed for good?
I believe he
The
killed
owner
himself.
is now deceased.
So yes, I would say he's pretty much closed for good. Just let the record show that Chris Davis has joined the meeting at 6:50 this evening.
Okay.
Thank you and welcome, Chris.
Sorry, guys.
I have
Um,
heard that, that there have been like a couple closures of food service establishments, but there have plans of coming back online. No one has called to say, unless you know something more than I do, Barb, no one's called to say that they're permanently closed. We've had one call and explain how they're struggling, and we try to direct them to funds and loans and such so that they can keep going. We encourage them to set up seating outside, though it's different now that since the weather is changing. We try to hold their hand in that process because we don't want to lose them.
no, of course not.
But permanently closed, I can't think of a restaurant. And if there is, it's only like one. But that tattoo parlor, that I didn't know about. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's about it. So does everybody agree with at least the proposed budget revenue report? And so what we can do is we can plug that into our budget for the town.
Yeah, we didn't even have any because we didn't have any ordinances or anything for the tattoo parlor. So I don't think we had any income based on
They
what
were
license we
listed.
would have collected out of
They
that.
were
anyway.
listed with cosmetology and tattoos for licenses. That's all.
Oh, yeah, I see the way they grouped it. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Nancy, to the best of your knowledge, the salons have all reopened.
As
The
far as I
salons
know,
and barber shops and all.
well, I think there's one barber shop they closed, but I don't know if they're closed permanently because when we ask them, you're going to surrender your licenses. No, they want to hold on to their license because they don't know,
Well, Yeah. I guess no sense surrendering it if they can just keep it open until it would expire anyway, right?
Right. But if we find out if there's a food service, we still want to get back in there. If they want to close down for a little while, that's fine, but we want to get back in there before they open.
Right.
To make certain that the food has been properly disposed of and the restaurant sanitized and things like that, before they start up again. Yep. Yeah, I think there's one barber shop. Yeah. So so that's what this, I think this looks pretty good. And I would like to add that to our budget. Now, just for FYI for everyone, Barb went ahead and scanned our budget from last year, 1920. Looks kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we'll probably do, we'll include these numbers in the revenue part of the budget. And then the second part of the budget that we haven't talked about yet is expenses. And I haven't tweaked any of the numbers, but what I'm just proposing is that unless somebody has an objection, that we go with these numbers and for now, and then Barb and I will just kind of see if there's additional expenses, like we might use more gas for vehicles, but we have to really do a little bit more research and contact Public Works in order to get those numbers, and that I can give you that for our next board meeting. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes. So if everyone, even if now you wanted to take a look at this, we can go over some of the things that undoubtedly will not change. Did you want to do that, Chris, or did you just want to wait?
I actually, I'm just kind of breezing over it right at the moment. I haven't come up with anything, any question or anything at this point.
Because I mean, if you start at the top line items, professional conferences, it's hard to get out to a conference when, at least now. So I think we still have that money in there. And if any of it's spent, I would be surprised. So the town will be able to get that money back, which is a nice thing. But I still recommend that next year we, that education professional conference should still be at least $540. I don't think we should change that. The next line item is the community health needs assessment. We don't need funding for that, so it'll stay blank the way it looks. Am I charging ahead? Does everybody see this?
Yeah, I'm good.
It's in their emails. Okay. Office supplies, those things I need to double check. The sheriff services will probably remain the same. Postage will remain the same. Toner cartridges, it was moved from IT budget into the department budget. I got to figure out what's going to happen there because Ken has new printers, and what does that mean for cartridges, ink cartridges, and for us using our own printer here. So that $800 can change. So there's a few things on here. Subscriptions, that might be tweaked up, maybe $50. Test strips and thermometers, we have to get some prices on that. Blood pressure measuring devices, probably we can go down on that to like maybe $600 or $700. Emergency preparedness supplies, I still recommend keeping it at $1,000. And mileage, again, the mileage both for a private vehicle mileage as well as fuel for 2 health department vehicles we have to visit. And the mileage that falls under the operating expense, that would be like the public health nurse mileage. So that might even be increased a little bit from $600 to a little bit higher because our new nurse and Heather are doing a lot more traveling around with their own personal vehicles.
The new nurse would be under the grant though, right?
Yeah, but that grant, I don't know if it allows for mileage. So I'd rather build it into the budget. Either that or work it so that the nurse can use our town vehicle, one of the two. And those things, and in that regard, I have to talk to Ken. So there's a few things that I really need to kind of get into the weeds on, but what do you think, Chris? What would our next step be on this?
All right, on I guess it's page 174 of this thing, the first one that had it's got like the salaries and stuff on it. You got
Yeah,
the part-time health inspector per diem. What I can't understand what's written after that, and then tran into something or other.
Oh, that was a transfer of funds. This is just our notes from the document that we had here in the health department. I tried to make a clean copy of this budget from the town website because the entire budget for 1920 is there. Unfortunately, for some reason, our printers will not print out the 3 pages that are 2/3 of the way in the document. So,
Okay,
so this is our notes on there.
not a problem.
Yeah, and anything dealing with staff and longevity and pay, we don't have any control over that, just as an FYI. That's entirely up to Ken.
This is
No, I
Mary.
was
This
just
is
wondering
more of a
what the
curious
notes meant.
question.
Yep.
Under the health operating expense, where it says community health supplies, materials, equipment, and EpiPens,
Yep.
where are there EpiPens in the community outside of the schools?
We have EpiPens that we keep here at the health department because we have a child vaccine clinic here in Down Hall. And if we have an episode, we want to make certain that we have an EpiPen available.
Okay, thank you.
It's an expensive add-on, I'll admit, but. And by the way, Mary, if you know we can get them at a discount, let me know.
Only if you get the other brand.
I mean,
No, seriously, when there was a shortage 2 years ago, another company started to make them because only EpiPen brand was available at that time. And
oh,
once
okay.
another company started to make them, there was a considerable price drop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, didn't they go up to like $700 or some crazy number like that?
That's how much they were. And as
Yeah.
school nurses, we were actually told by the state Department of Education, because that's who governs school nurses.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we were told, do not dispose of them. If kids have brought them in and they're expired, keep them anyway, because expired's better than nothing. Because they
Yeah.
couldn't refill their prescriptions because the pharmacies didn't have them. So we were stocked with expired EpiPens until they became available again.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta do
All
it.
right.
You gotta
So,
do it.
all right. I'm all good with this for right now. So the next step for you guys, Nancy, is to plug in all the numbers from the that we've kind of talked about, this like the 78,435 number
Mm-hmm.
for the proposed budget. See how it all kind of comes out. And then we will, just so everybody is aware, we have to vote on this, or we either have to vote on it to approve next meeting, or we have to hold special meetings until we have it, because it needs to go to Ken by the beginning of January before we will meet in January, just to make everybody else aware.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the annual report discussion. I don't know about anybody else. I have kind of looked through all of the Stratford one, the Trumbull one that you had sent out to us last time. While stylistically they're a little bit different, they got some really cool looking graphs and things like that in there. I think basically most of the information is very, very similar. It's just presented in a little bit different way.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you're putting more and more of these graphs in, you're adding more and more pages, which obviously adds to printing costs and things like that. I don't really feel, unless somebody else has a different idea at this point, I don't think we need to really do anything dramatically different in the annual report this year.
Right.
Obviously, I'm sure, Nancy, you will be including, all kinds of stuff about COVID, even though it was only a few months technically within the last fiscal year, which is what this report's going to be covering.
Yeah.
That was obviously the big chunk of, oh my God, COVID happening type stuff for us.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond that, I don't see a need to change any kind of formatting or informational changes. Again, unless you guys feel there's something else that you liked or didn't like. So I'd certainly love to hear anybody else's ideas.
No, I think
Chris?
it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to change it much, if at all.
Okay, Mary? Anything different
I'm
from you?
good with it.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay,
All right,
All
I'll
right.
put together a draft so that we can take a look at, we've done, the work that we've done in FY 2019.
perfect.
There you go.
All
Okay.
right, so now we're gonna move on to letter G, number 1, the meeting schedule for next year. Is, I took a quick look at it. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. None of the Wednesdays fall on any kind of holidays next year, I'm assuming, Nancy?
No, did you double check that, Barb? She did. Barb, we agree. Barb and I.
Barb's on the money.
I know, she's on the right. No, no, no.
Okay, so unless somebody else has any kind of issue with the proposed meeting schedule at this point, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to motion to approve.
Got that, Barb?
I will second.
Okay. Chris Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Michael, how do you vote?
I second, but aye.
Oh, good, thank you. Mary, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, great. Nancy?
Aye.
Okay, vote as carried unanimously. We will go ahead and submit that, all those dates to the clerk, please.
Okay.
And our last item of new business, DPH immunization program. Why don't you talk a little bit about that for us, Nance?
Yep, and that's basically the grant that I talked about a little a moment ago. And there's money coming out of the state health department down from the CDC. Don't know when it comes, it just kind of shows up, and we've been told that there might be even more funding coming down. So what we're looking into, every health department is being given that $7,400, which is nice. Part of the planning for our pod, in my discussion with Trumbull just yesterday, was maybe we should hold back like half of this money to be used on hiring, individuals to provide the vaccine to the public, because as anyone would guess, when the vaccine comes in and you're trying to vaccinate the entire population, it's not like nurses are going to leave their workplace at the hospital or wherever they happen to be to run down to the public health pod and start vaccinating people. So your pool of nurses and those that can supply the vaccine is very small. So I think that we might, so we can't just expect volunteers to show up. I think that we really need to have money in case we need to hire some. Because it would be like a 2-day job for Trumbull and Monroe. It would take 2 days to do the population. And that's just a real rough guesstimate. And that's not the entire population. That's a population that will show up. And so then you have to figure on about 6 nurses, $30, $40 an hour. And so what that comes out to is about half this amount. So that's part of the discussion. We're also thinking of Keith White. He's looking into a transmitter for us. We might be able to transmit a loop of information so that if individuals, the public shows up in their cars, we're able to tell them to turn on a certain station, and they'll be able to get some our public health messaging out to them there at the pod. That might be helpful. Of course, signage, but we might have enough of that. We have to look into that a bit. And we have to be ready to provide the vaccine if this happens in the winter. And how do you do that? Well, we've got some tents, but I don't know if the tents have sides. And I don't know if you can have people standing out providing vaccine all day in the freezing cold without a place to warm up. So that means some sort of contraption that would heat some sort of a tent. And then, of course, that contraption has to be approved by the fire marshal. So there's a lot of steps in this planning, and we've really started ever since we've gotten this money, because we have to plan on how we're going to spend it. So that's that. Any other thoughts from anybody on spending this?
Historically, Nancy, this is Mary.
Yeah.
Historically, what population do you see actually asking the town for vaccines versus getting them from either private providers or pharmacies, now that pharmacies can provide vaccines?
So look, could you say that one more time, please?
historically, before
Yep.
now, when the town is giving vaccines,
Mm-hmm.
who do you see coming to the town for vaccines? And I realize
see
that
what
we the
right.
senior center flu clinic, for example, but you've listed a couple of children's vaccines in the past. But for the most part, who is coming to the town instead of going to pharmacies or their primary care providers?
Well, for like what do you mean for like the flu vaccine, or who do we think that's gonna show up for the
Any
COVID?
vaccines that have
What's your
been given
target
in the past,
audience?
flu and others.
Yeah. So what we have is in which we're providing child vaccines. We're a backup for schools where you might have a child that they don't have their vaccines, that they're not available. They're not able to make an appointment. So we're always the backup for kids that need vaccines for school. That's basically where we are. We also had some flu vaccine for kids. I don't know, we might have given one this past year. And those vaccines, we don't pay for them. They're through the CT Wiz program, and all of that is state funded. It's just a backup for us here in Monroe to have this program, to participate in this program. Now with COVID, what we're hoping is we have about 500 people that are considered emergency or first responder people in town, and we're currently surveying this group, which of course includes town employees, police, EMS, Board of Education people, to try to figure out who wants to take the vaccine. There's a number of people that they're not interested. But that will be probably the first group that will receive the COVID-19 vaccine when it comes online. And right now, the plan is that our health department is going to, are going to provide that vaccine to our customers. When you're talking about the entire population of our town, or most of the population, we're going to have to work with Trumbull and Stratford and figure out how we're going to do this collectively. We're hoping that that our town pharmacies will also be able to have the vaccine. My understanding is that they will. We'll see how that pans out. And because we really need to siphon off a lot of numbers to the pharmacies in town, to expect a health department to do it all is really a tall order. Is that it?
Okay.
That's it from me.
But yeah, our vaccine clinic is, we have my nurse Heather and I have talked about, should we keep the vaccine clinic going, and because we're not in it to make money, so to speak, and we're not in it to reach a specific audience, because what we're looking for is we're just really kind of like a backup. But once you are a licensed clinic, it's like a feather in the cap of a health department, because not all health departments have a vaccine clinic. And because we have this license, essentially, when the COVID-19 vaccine is distributed, we get the vaccine because we have a licensed clinic, and we have a reach in and all those other things that are required to maintain the vaccine at the correct temperature. So,
And you anticipate the town receiving a good portion over what the other, over what like the pharmacies, et cetera, would be receiving?
Do you know that's one thing they haven't said at all.
No, I haven't been able to find anything about that either. And I honestly think that, and this is just, I don't think that I would trust that the town is going to get a supply that's greater than the supply given to the other outlets.
Right.
I think CVS is going to distribute within CVS a lot more than what the state of Connecticut is going to distribute to the town.
Right. Hard to know. I know that the first bit that's coming out, that is really targeted for first responders and essential personnel.
Right.
And then the next
But
part.
for instance,
Yeah.
you know, essential personnel who are employed by organizations like me and Chris. So, you know,
Right.
he works at Griffin Hospital, I work at St. Vincent's. Our
Yep.
employers are going to vaccinate us.
Yeah.
Now, volunteers with the town EMS would be looking for vaccination, and the town hopefully would be able to provide it.
Right. We've included them in our numbers. We've included them in our numbers. But it could be that there's just not a lot of vaccine out there, and all of a sudden we get 30, we get 30 doses. So we're trying to put it in some sort of a hierarchy of who's the first one that gets the vaccine. It's tricky.
Yeah, that's what everybody's trying to do.
Yep. But you have a lot of people that are like, I don't want to be the first one in line to get the vaccine either. You know, people are scared. But
This is Mike. So they're saying it's going to be 2 doses, about 30 days apart. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are both doses the same, or is it? I guess what I'm trying to say is it the exact same? So if you get 30 doses, it's like really for 15 people, or is the second dose going to come out to you later? And is it a different antibody or medication, or what is the second dose?
Well, it's according to the state. Well, there are two different types of vaccine that have been approved or are hopefully going to be approved. And one is super cold. The vaccine has to be held at like negative, I don't know, negative 30 or 40. The temperature, I mean, it's very, very cold. And health departments, they're not going to distribute that vaccine to us because it would have to be held in dry ice, like with most health departments. So I think that vaccine is going to go to hospitals where they can maintain those type of temperatures. The other vaccine, and that's a 2-dose vaccine. The other vaccine will be provided to us where we are supposed to give everybody the vaccine, and then before that 30 days comes around, we will have that second dose available for you. That's the plan. Any other thoughts?
Not for me at this time.
Okay.
All right. The only other question that I would have is I just happen to be going, I have picked up some old papers and just looking at, like, we had an old calendar of like different events and things that we wanted to accomplish and that sort of thing. Um, obviously COVID has trumped so many of these things. Like, I was looking at, like, August is supposed to be immunization awareness month, and then emergency preparedness month and all this other stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I know we've talked about what we could possibly do, because we can't be doing our blood pressure screenings and that sort of thing. um, um, is there still anything that we can do? Because with December, with imminent holidays coming up, is there anything? Because the thing, it was a safe toy and gift month. Is there anything we still plan on doing during the month of December, or do we think at this point most likely not going to be able to get to those kinds of things just because of the imminency of what is going on elsewhere?
Well, Chris, certainly we can put stuff up on Facebook, toy safety. I can talk to Ken because he approves all of our press releases. We can put out a press release. I can ask him about that. We won't be able to set up anything per se, It's hard
Well,
to do.
obviously, nothing in person, I don't
Yep.
think that would be really appropriate at this point, nor would
Sure.
I even know where you would set anything up at this point.
Yeah. Okay. I still think that certainly we can put stuff out on Facebook, and I can talk to about Ken regarding a press release. Yeah, we can do that. Does anybody have any other ideas?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I missed a lot of the meeting tonight. So the only thing I can think of is, in terms of, and I don't even know if this falls into our purview, but the mental health aspect of this pandemic.
Yeah.
Is there any information that we can kind of roll out for that? Just that's
Yep.
just
Yep. That I can do. That I can do. I put some stuff out on Facebook, and there is more information that needs to be gotten out there regarding mental health. I'll agree with you on that too. Yep. Yep.
So amongst
It would
the,
never hurt us to promote the use of 211 for anybody with any needs that are health, mental health, safety related.
Okay. All right. The kind of things that happen, let me just give you an overview so that you can kind of see what it's like in the health department right now with the dynamic, what it's like. So I get in the morning, and usually there's 2 or 3 phone calls. I got to call somebody back. And it's the kind of thing where they're COVID questions. Some have to do with, some are easy to answer, and which, in other words, questions about our exposure, how to protect oneself. But then we get other questions regarding changes that have happened at the state level. Oh, how many people can now meet outside and sit at a picnic table? So there's so many of these little questions, and things are changing so quickly. You got to research them to make certain that you're telling the public, you're giving the public the right information. So while that's happening, I'm preparing that grant that came in for a reimbursement grant, trying to get that ready with a cover sheet for Ken. While that's happening, we've gotten another couple complaints that have come in that Matt's trying to take care of, along with doing soils inspections, because there's still a lot of that going on right now, believe it or not. Then there is 2 conference calls in between all of this. Then we have a COVID-19 task force that Ken chairs, where we basically talk about, what's going to happen on Thanksgiving? How are we going to get the word out for people to be safe? If people want to eat in the park, is that a problem? If people, because of the nice weather, we've had a lot of people playing on the basketball courts. What are we going to do now? They're too close. There isn't enough. So all those questions come up. And then preparing the survey for the town departments to find out who wants to get the COVID vaccine. It's that kind of a day where you are running from one small thing to the other, and it's really demanding. It's demanding on our staff. I don't know. I met with my sanitarian this morning just to touch base with them, because I haven't been able. It seems like I haven't talked to them in a week. Like, how are you? What's going on? Are you overwhelmed? Do you need help? Because management, as you know, that's the essential piece, is that you need to take care of your staff, make certain that everything's going well on their end, as well as, and then preparing for this meeting tonight. So if you ever feel that I'm shortchanging you, in some ways I know I am, because I'm pulled in so many directions. But if you need additional information, don't hesitate to let me know, because I can find the answer. But it's a pretty trying time right now. I just wanted to share that with you.
okay. Does anybody have any other items that they feel we need to discuss at this point? Chris Davis?
I'm good.
Okay, Michael,
I'm good as well.
Lancy,
I'm good.
and Mary.
All set.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much for everybody's time this evening. We are going to motion for adjournment at 7:24.
I second it.
Thank you. And Chris Davis,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Mary. Excellent. All right. Carries unanimous. Again,
Aye.
thank you very much, everybody, for your
Sorry for
time
my
this evening.
tardiness, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All righty.
Have a
We
good
will
night,
talk
guys.
to
November.
everybody next month. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.